So we're going to give it a few minutes before we get started and get a few people up in here. Just wanted to talk a little bit before I get started on any kind of real information as far as what I'm seeing from the building supply industry. I wanted to talk a little bit about the project that's right across the street right over here. It's a 62 unit apartment complex that pretty much has stopped working. I mean, they haven't been here for months now. And I look at this project and I think to myself, man, if something doesn't happen soon, this building is going to start deteriorating. Now, one of the things that I noticed right off the bat when I come out here to this job site and just kind of generally just look around, there's nobody here, right? There's nobody walking, there's nobody, going through the buildings, there's nobody here. And I'm looking at doors and windows that have been sitting open for months now. Like I literally drove past this place, I don't know, a couple of months ago and have walked past it on the railroad tracks because this is right in the middle of Astoria and there's a set of railroad tracks that has a river walk so you can walk the river. And you can see all around this building and there are open windows and open doors. Now, here in the Pacific Northwest, it pretty much rains every single day. Like, if you don't get a day of rain, that's kind of unique. We all talk about it. So every day it rains and the wind blows and it's blowing moisture and weather and everything else into the building, like literally right into the building itself because these doors and windows are not closed. So even if somebody was to say pick this project up, from what I understand, the original builder has abandoned this project, whether it's going into default or whatever. There's been other investors who are picking this up. But the problem that I see with it is that because of the delay that has taken place with the continuation of this project, there's going to be damage to this building that needs to be repaired. And now I think about some of the reasonings that this building had stopped was because, or the progress on it, is because they started this right before the pandemic, right? Or right as the pandemic was kicking in, if I remember right. And it went over budget. Like all the cost of material, labor cost, everything that went into it, they couldn't complete the project and they basically just had to call it quits. Now, before the project came to an end and they were trying to either save money or do something, I can see like up at the fascias. So like if you're not familiar with building terms, fascia is basically where the gutters would hang, like the eave of the building. And so typically when you look at like a building, it would have exterior trim. Like a lot of times it might be a primed trim, like it's been painted already. And that would be a very typical exterior trim to use, not only to like say trim out the doors and windows, but then also use that up on the fascia as well. So it would be that same type of board. A lot of times this is something that's going to be a little bit more weather resistant. So like it might be a cedar, or even if it is not a cedar, but maybe something that might be a little bit more sensitive to the weather, it's been primed, with a good coat of primer on it, so it'll be protected somewhat from the weather. What they've used up on the fascias up here is standard and better framing lumber, which typically is used for like interior walls, not necessarily for exterior like trim, especially on something that is going to be weather sensitive or get the abuse like an eave would have, right? So now all the fascia boards, I'm assuming, are all going to have to be replaced. Like, I mean, that's not going to work, right? I mean, those are damaged. I can already see them graying out. And some of them, over on the building, you can't really see it over there, but way over on the other side, I mean, it is really dark. Like the fascia boards are starting to rot, like get the mold on it, the black mold and stuff like that. So even if, somebody was to pick this project up, they're going to have to go in reverse to complete this thing. So I can imagine like the loss of revenue that is going into this building. Like this thing is like literally a money pit now. And I can only assume that stuff like this is happening across the country right now, right? Like this type of project. This is 62 units. I mean, a 62 unit apartment complex in the middle of Astoria that is now a giant eyesore that hasn't been worked on for months. How many people are telling the same story? Like, I mean, I went and tried to do some news research to try and get some news articles to talk about it. Not a lot of people talking about their projects that are failing. I know they're occurring out there because you hear about all the commercial real estate, but these are the big games, the big time stuff that you hear about, right? How many of these smaller projects are all across the United States right now. How much loss has taken place within these things? It's quite incredible. And so I think about like what caused the failure of this particular project, why it won't continue on. And you think about it, it was like the material cost had just tripled, quadrupled in a lot of ways, right? Something that they were not expecting to have happen. Like nobody was anticipating that. Well, now the prices are coming down. See, this is something that a lot of people don't realize, that building material prices are starting to come down. Now, are they back to where they were? Not even close. No, I mean, we got a long ways to go to get back to where we were. Like a 2x4, Standard and Better 2x4 8, yeah, even that's kind of close to back to where it was. I mean, I'm selling them right now for $3.99. That's a bit expensive. I mean, prior to the pandemic, I had been selling them at some point at a little over $4, about $4.50 a piece, which is still expensive. I mean, a 2x4 Standard and Better should sell for about $2.50. When this project was in its framing stage, 2x4s were selling for $13.50 a piece. Huge difference, right? So now when I think about what's taking place right now, as there is less demand coming from the retail side of things, the home builders, like the actual builders, building permit issuance, take a look at that. I didn't leave a link down in the description, but if you go to like Google and type in building permit issuance and then type in FRED, it's the Federal Reserve like education site that they have for all the charts and everything, you're going to find the building permit issuance is almost as prevalent today as it was prior to the pandemic. Like there's the same amount that is being issued. There was a spike during the pandemic of people like, I guess, trying to move out of the city, move out to the suburbs or out to the urban areas or whatever, get away from the concentrated cities. There was a lot of building that had taken place during then, but as the builders have come down and there was a drop in it, right, they really haven't dropped much more below than what the pre-pandemic level was, right? So the builders are still somewhat active out there, but the retail side of things have just dropped off dramatically. And so we're starting to see prices of things like the cedar shingles, right? I mean, although it's a very common like new construction item, for the most part, like in my particular area, we don't really sell that much for the new construction. Generally, we're selling it for remodels or additions or maintenance or something like that. But just to give an example, cedar shingles we're selling for $200 a bundle. Right now, we have them at $109. Now, prior to the pandemic, they were selling for about $70. So, are they back to that? No, but they've dropped a lot. I mean, significantly. And so I'm seeing this taking place in a lot throughout the industry. And it's really difficult to recognize some of these price drops that are happening because they are so small and so insignificant when it comes to like each individual item. You don't really notice it on the big scale. So like windows, doors, a lot of the specialty items like that, those things haven't come down. Like metal roofing in general hasn't come down. So it makes it difficult to say, yeah, building prices have come down. No, it's not really like that. But building materials in a broad sense, there is a huge chunk of that is now starting to find its way back into, I wouldn't say normalish price, but into that, disinflation and deflationary scenarios that are happening out there. So give it time, who knows what's going to be taking place. But it does make me wonder, man, what's going to happen with this building? Like, if somebody does pick it up, like what kind of efforts are they going to have to go through in order to get this thing completed? I mean, I know a lot of people were, really hoping for this building to be completed. I mean, 62 units, that's a lot, right? That brings a lot of, people to live at, to reside at. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's see what you guys are talking about here. I got about another 20 minutes, so if you guys have any questions or want me to bring up anything, crisis means more easy money for the well-connected and more inflation for us. Yes, sir. Hello. Hi, Simon. Look about right. Charger Mopar, right? Salutes and respect to the uneducated in the chat. Right on. It's great to see you guys here. Long Beach Joe Jets. I love it. All right. Deborah, right. Why open doors and windows? Yeah, I know. Like you'd think that somebody would have gone around and shut. Like I see one open door right over there and I see one right there. And I see open window over there. And I imagine if you walked around this building, you would find other ones too. And I mean, I'm just sitting in my car, just what I can observe from right here. If I was to go around and really start doing the looks, like if I was to do the inspection on this house, I mean, or on this building, I don't know. Construction around here is still moving full speed. Rain was my first thought. We're getting soaked in San Diego. Yeah, I hope you're hanging in there all right there, all-nighter. I mean, I see it on the news. It's crazy. Hey, y'all, driving but listening, right on. Emotional damage when the investor gets the bill. Yeah, see, that's just the thing. Like the builder on this thing, I mean, I don't want to say his name, but I know who he is, like person. Like, I mean, I don't know him personally. Like, hey, bro, what's up? I know who he is. Like, we know each other, right? And he bailed. Like, he's gone. He was like, I gotta say, I'm out of town, man. And he's like, he left. Um, so yeah, it's just like, I mean, this is a problem over here. All right, I got my Alaskan rain gear, so I'm dry. Right on. Yep, they're going to have to repair a lot of things with that damage happening. Hey, Crypto Beauty, what's up? All right, around here they use steel and concrete, not much of that cheap wood matchstick construction. Yeah, and there's something about the Pacific Northwest. We do a lot of building out of wood, like all of it. Like I mean, I've worked on, you know, I worked on a big uh, commercial job out there in Seaside, and the entire thing, like I mean, several of them, they're all wood. All these, 4-story apartment complex, all that, everything is all wood construction. All right. Fascia boards are synthetic, yeah. Well, they could be. I mean, a lot of times you can have synthetic, like like a PVC type of trim board. Some of the composite trims. They even make like, I don't know necessarily if I would want to use a fiber cement trim on a fascia, just because I think the damage of it can, if you don't have anything solid backing it, like if you put fiber cement trim up against a wall, it's backed by the wall itself, so it doesn't damage as easy. But up on the fascia, that might not be the greatest spot. I don't know. Maybe people use it up there. I've never really done that myself. I've always used wood fascias, or I have used synthetic fascias as well. Synthetic trims would definitely be the ideal way to go in the Pacific Northwest, whether it was Pacific or a fiber cement trim or something, whether it was PVC, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, this is like, I'm looking out there like, I mean, I see the roof line up there. I don't even see any fascias on it. So it makes me wonder, it's like, what they did up there. Oh, no, I see it. No, it's fascia. It's 2x6 as well. It's standard and better. Anyway. Okay, better to just have a fire and claim a loss. Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's gonna be it's gonna be pretty ugly. I mean, trying to figure out what it is that you need to replace. Like, I think at the doors, you think like all the subfloor and everything, like right from the door, like all the threshold area right in there, that's all got to start rotting. Like, it doesn't take, but, I mean, it has some time exposed to the weather. Like, you'd be okay for a little bit. But, I mean, this is like, how long is it going to sit? How long is that door going to sit open, all that material, like all the framing starts to rot, all the subfloor starts to rot. And even if you don't replace it, then later on in time, like you have issues, like you'll have swelling, mold issues, rotting, dry rot issues, stuff like that. All right. Hit the like button, people. Yes, please do. Yeah, go hit that like button. We have 198 people watching right now. Yes, with 198 people watching, we should have that up to 100 likes here in the next 5 minutes. So let's hit that like button, please. Want to contact the owner? That's an opportunity. Lots of homeless there. Surprised they have not moved in. Well, I mean, I would imagine that is probably gets, I mean, they probably jump the fence and go hang out there. I mean, all right. Lived in ski town that had the same issues, boom and bust cycles. Yeah. Crackheads move in, building burns down, land is worth more. And it's on a really good spot. I mean, I would love to have one of the apartments like right over there, because it looks right out over the river and it's beautiful. I mean, what a beautiful spot. And then it's like right next to the grocery market. Like you could literally like walk across the street over to the grocery market. It's a really good location for an apartment building. It's just too bad it doesn't get finished. All right. Dishes, right on. Good to see you up in here, Mama. All right. All Nighter says hi, Dishes. Greg, good afternoon, Simon. Well, it's good afternoon to you. Hola, Broncos, Chas. Okay. Let's see here. It still amazes me the extent of crazy decisions people make during the pandemic. Huge life shifts for what? Yeah, it can be. I mean, it's amazing to think like what happened during the pandemic. If this like I just think about this one project, and this isn't the only case. There has been like this has been duplicated over and over again. Towns and cities across America are facing this exact same problem, right? And it makes it like, you think about it when Jerome Powell said on 60 Minutes that we have this commercial real estate thing that's going to last for years. Right? Here's a perfect example. I get to watch this one while everybody else gets to sit in their hometown and watch something similar to happen. Hello there, UE in chat. I was wondering which of the Cantillon books you keep referring to. I'm not sure if it's an essay or on economic theory or essay on nature of commerce in general. That's a good one too. I haven't read that one. I want to. What I am reading is this one right here, an essay on economic theory. And you can get this if you just type in Cantillon essay or Cantillon theory. Mises Institute has PDF files that you can download for free, so you can go and get that essay. And I suggest if you don't want to read the whole thing because it is somewhat boring, the 3 chapters on the increase and decrease of money to the state is by far. Let's see, chapter I think it's 6, 7, and 8. The increase and decrease of money and the quantity of money in the state. Those 3 chapters are absolutely incredible. Like after you read those chapters, you really start to get the understanding of like the move into luxuries that starts separating the rich and the poor, that starts driving in ever increasing amounts of foreign imports, driving out ever increasing amounts of domestic manufacturing. Once you read those chapters and you kind of internalize that information, it really starts clearing up a lot of stuff out there that you see. And so I suggest, like, if you're not going to read the whole thing from beginning to end, to at least internalize those 3 chapters. Like that's very important stuff. All right, we're at 82 likes. We're almost there, guys. What's going on? Everyone, hit the like for UE, folks. Yes, please do. Gonna be a lot of lighting. How do you think the implosion would happen? I don't know. It's hard. Like for me, it's hard to like try and wrap my head around what that implosion is going to look like, considering what we had experienced during the great financial crisis. That these people have set up like the credit default swaps, the insurance policies, the stuff for when these things start to fail. Like, that stuff is out there. But to me, like, I don't know to what extent. Like, I don't know what that's going to look like. Like, it's going to start happening. There's a lot of like ideas about the damage that this could do, but really what we don't know is the tools or at least the plan that the Federal Reserve has to deal with this, because they know it's coming, right? And they're not going to be like, oh, well, we're going to deal with the problem once it gets here. No, it doesn't work like that. They know there's a problem and they're working on the plans to deal with it, but we don't know what those tools are. We don't know what they're going to deploy. I'm trying my best. That's what the point of tonight's live stream is going to be. The members only live stream is to break down some of the talks about, like, well, tonight we're talking about the change to banking reform, like, to basically there's a change to the capital of banks and how much they're going to have in capital, and they want to try and make this like a universal thing for the entire globe, so international trades kind of have banking systems that are somewhat similar to each other. That's kind of like the brief way of talking about it. That's going to be in tonight's live stream, but on Saturday we're also going to break down the banking system and the future of it. And when we think about like some of the stuff that has taken place right now, they have not necessarily hidden messages within these speeches, but they bring up certain particular topics of interest that they know that that's going to come, right? Like they'll say stuff like, our elevated concern for traditional banking issues, has been heightened over the last, couple of months or something. They'll say something very vague like that. That's them saying, oh shit, we got a problem here. Right. And so like, this is what reading these speeches is going to be about, because then you can actually get kind of clues of what it is that they have planned for the future, or at least maybe possibly some of those tools that they might deploy. Like, nobody saw the bank term funding program, right? Nobody saw that being deployed. until Silicon Valley Bank. And then boom, here it is. Here's your tool. Like, everybody knew that there was going to be a banking crisis. Everybody knew that there was going to be some sort of bank run happening. Everybody knew that you should get your money out of the bank right away, but nobody knew about the Fed's like bank term funding program until it was actually deployed. And then they saved everybody's deposits, right? Saved, right? Okay, but anyway, this is what happens. And that's why I don't get so like caught up in like what the possible failure is going to look like, because I don't know what the Federal Reserve has in response to that possible failure. So anyway, but I don't know, like, you think about it, somebody's going to be able to pick this thing up for pennies on the dollar, right? But all the contractors who put their work into it, all the subcontractors, everybody else, they all have to take a loss, right? So now somebody's going to pick this thing up for essentially pennies on the dollar, right? I mean, they're going to be able to pick up this project and continue on with it. Now, I think about how this operation works, right? How much time do I have? Okay, I got 9 minutes. So I think about how this works. A lot of times I think of it like a garden, right? You think about it. If you have a garden, right, and you just plow that sucker down, there's nothing there. It's just dirt and ugly and whatever, right? But then you plant some seeds and you get these little sprouts to grow, and you're like kind of happy with that. But then as time goes on, these things just get bigger and bigger and more beautiful. And the more you tend it, the more you take care of everything, and it just grows and grows and grows. And then it gets to this spot where it's just absolutely beautiful. Like, everything is just ready to go. It's time for harvest. And it's just like, you just want to take pictures of your garden because it just looks so beautiful, right? And then you harvest and it looks like hell. It's devastated. Like, all the plants are broken down. Everything's just looking like crap. And it's just like, the picture of it being beautiful is just gone because you have taken everything, right? And then eventually you just have to clear it all out and you start the whole thing again. Well, I think about it like that when it comes to the debt issuance, right? So here you have a lot of debt issuance that starts the projects rolling. That's like planting of the seeds, right? And you keep that in, those loans going into the economy, and everything starts to build up. You find all these people borrowing money to build beautiful things, right? Or attempt to. And so as they build these beautiful things up, all of a sudden the interest rates rise, right? And now you can't make the payments on this anymore. You can't get the funding you need to continue on with what it is you got going on. You fail, right? You end up going bankrupt. Then people with money, cash, come in and harvest all those beautiful things that you built, right? Clear it all out. They take the beautiful things. They make, tons of money off of it because they're able to pick it up for pennies on the dollar. That's the harvesting that's happening there. You see, this is how the rich really harvest from the poor. They devastate the economy, make it look like hell. Here's some interest, low interest rates. Go ahead and start borrowing that money. Go build some beautiful things, right? And then next thing you know, interest rates rise. You can't get the cash flow coming in anymore. You can't make the payments. You lose out on the project. Some rich dude comes in there and says, well, I have the cash. I can take that over, and I'm going to. Right? And so they harvest it from you. And this is like very typical of how this operation works. Like, if you can manage to hold on to it during those times, when they're trying to do the harvest and you're able to hold on, well, then maybe you get to join them. Right? But most people don't do that, right? Or I shouldn't say most people don't do that. The chances of that is low. So this is what you end up with, right? And now I think about the coming liquidity crisis that we're going to experience. I mean, you can see it already happening. I mean, the banks are getting set up for it. It's one of the reasons why we're doing the live stream tonight and again on Saturday, is to talk about the liquidity issues that are hitting these banks and how it is that the Federal Reserve and the banking system is going to handle this issue. And so when you think about the liquidity crisis coming, and it really is, it's like less cash. Like, just imagine less cash being flowing through the system. Everybody who was working on this no longer gets the money for that. They're not spending that money down at the restaurants or, buying new tools or anything else, right? Sure, they might have found another job, but this one's not paying them. And this is the same story that happens across the nation, right? And so as this liquidity crisis, I mean, this is just one of many stories out there. So as the liquidity starts to slow down because less people are borrowing money to then put that new money into the system for all of us to go and chase and try and, use to pay off our own debts or, have a better life with, it becomes difficult to find those things, right? Liquidity is shrinking, it's drying up. And as that dries up, that's when the harvesting is starting to happen. So you can see it taking place right now. This is why, like, when things are going really good and you take out a lot of debt, right? They're setting you up. They're setting you up to take it from you. This is the whole point of raising the interest rates up, is to stop that from happening, kill the irrational exuberance, and then if you can't make your payments, they take it from you, right? And it's like a rinse and repeat, it's just the way it kind of operates. So yeah, liquidity issues are coming. I mean, it's harvest time, right? All right, the owners aren't local, I bet. No, well, not the new ones, but the original, the original people who were working on this project, like I knew who they were. I knew the builder, I knew the general contractor. I mean, I know them. I know who they are. Like I could, dude, I know you, So, is there anything that can bring the system down, and will the new system be the same? No, absolutely not. Yes, yes, there will be something that will bring the system down. No, it will not be the same. What's going to eventually bring the system down is when the United States can no longer sell their debt, right? The day that the U.S. Treasury is no longer accepted as much as it is today, I don't even know how, there's going to be a certain level that it reaches. But once the U.S. Treasuries are no longer the prized safe haven, guaranteed to pay, no chance of default kind of asset, once people don't have that feeling about it anymore, then you're going to see, here in the United States, we are going to face some really serious issues because we don't have any way of bringing new money in other than debt issuance. Like if we had manufacturing or, natural resources that we could sell in a mass amount, then we could bring some new money in, right? But we don't, we're far exceeding the ability to continue our standard of living by going back into manufacturing or the selling of natural resources. That ain't going to happen. Our standard of living is going to fall dramatically if we no longer are the issuer of the world's debt, like the U.S. Treasuries. Once that has failed, then it's over for us. We have really no way of maintaining this elevated standard of living without the new money coming in. And so it's going to be chaos and misery. Now, whether or not that happens or takes place, I mean, how far out? Everybody seems to think that it was going to happen last year, but it never happened. And if you had asked me 15 years ago, I would have said it already would have happened. So this is an incredibly resilient system. The U.S. Treasuries is still by far the most prized, asset that you could possibly buy. I don't know why people feel that way about it, because in my opinion, I wouldn't trust the government for anything like that. But that's my personal opinion. What the opinion is of the rest of the world, they like that stuff, right? And as much as you hear about these foreign nations who are dumping out of these U.S. Treasuries, they're trying to get into cash. The easiest way to cash is to get rid of U.S. Treasuries. You sell Treasuries, you get cash. When you get cash, you pay your debts with that cash. That's what these nations are doing, right? They're not trying to I want to get out of U.S. Treasuries because I hate the United States government or I hate the United States or anything like that. That might be some of the case. It might be one of the things that you read about inside of the articles and stuff, but ultimately they're trying to get into cash because we're in a liquidity issue, right? And it's going to turn into a crisis. So yeah, people are looking for cash anywhere they can. And when it gets really ramped up, you're going to start seeing everything selling off, like gold, stocks, real estate, cryptos, all that stuff. Everything starts to sell in a liquidity crisis because you need the money to pay your debts, or else they start taking everything from you because it's harvest time. All right, you guys having fun? How much time we got? Okay, I got a couple more minutes here, and then I got to go back to work. This was a really fun live stream. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to cruise down here to the bottom. I don't mean to skip past all these comments, but I can't get through all of them, so I just wanted to see if there was another question down here towards the bottom or something. All right, $20 for a candy bar coming soon to a country near you. Hey, you want to know what's something that's really crazy? Let's talk about candy bars. So I work at a retail hardware store, right? We have our little stand of impulse buys. So there's candy bars there. There's whatever, all the different types. And, we got a little Gatorade, a little fridge that we sell Gatorades and stuff from. Anyway, the candy bars are expensive, right? Because you're at a hardware store, right? So you're paying the most for a candy bar to snack on. But they're not that expensive. I mean, it's just what you would typically see at the store, for a big candy bar, with the 2 chunks in there or whatever. $2.50, right? It's kind of pricey. Well, now one particular one is sitting up there at $3.99, $4 for a candy bar that last couple of months ago was selling for $2.50, right? And so I went to the buyer, right? And I'm like, bro, dude, really? $3.99. I mean, how many of these things do you think we're actually going to sell? I mean, I'm the only one who ever bought this particular one anyway. You know, it was like, I mean, everybody bought it, but at $3.99, nobody's going to buy it, right? And it was just like, hey, that's just the price. That's what it is. And I'm like, well, now it's going to sit there and nobody's buying them. Like, I mean, who would pay that much for it, right? So yeah, I mean, it's starting to happen. But you know, I think about it, like material costs are coming down. Product costs are still expensive. So like if you're going to buy a chunk of wood, it's come down in price. But if you wanted to buy a chunk of wood that has been made into something, now it's expensive, right? So material cost has gone down, but the products are still elevated because of the labor costs and energy costs and everything that went into it. But the material costs themselves are really starting to come down. And, you know, I can see it, you know, in lots of areas. I mean, it was kind of funny. I'm going to say this one last thing and then I'm going to go because I got to go back to work. But I kind of messed with one of the guys, like, you guys know me in politics or whatever. But anyway, so I'm screwing with one of the other guys there. And just because it's kind of slow and I'm bored and, you know, it's a lumber yard and we pick on each other, right? So I was just like, bro, look at these prices, man. I was just like, look, this has come down, and like there's this particular vendor we ordered a bunch of stuff from, and every single item that we had ordered from them had come down in price. Now, it wasn't like significant or anything like that, but you know, the prices have eased. They're not going up, they came down. And so I'm joking around with him. I'm like, bro, look at this. All these different things came down. I said, isn't that amazing? And he goes, yeah, so. And I was just like, well, you were blaming Biden for all the prices going up. Are you going to go and give him credit because the prices are coming down? And he lit up. Hell no, I ain't giving Biden, didn't do anything. He just starts lighting up about it. We're all laughing about it because we were just joking anyway. But he was so upset about that. And, you know, and he was just like, he went back into his office and he was just sitting there all kind of pissed, you know. And I was just like, I came back and I was like, dude, I'm sorry I did that, you know. Because I wasn't really, I mean, I was just screwing with them. But it's funny because that's actually something that is kind of legitimate when you think about it, right? So here everybody wanted to blame the administration because all these prices have gone up, but now the prices are starting to come back down. I said, are you going to give the administration credit? You know, I mean, I'm not blaming Biden for the prices going up. I'm blaming, you know, other things for it, right? I don't give him credit for anything because I never heard anything he's ever said, so I wouldn't know. But all I guess I'm getting at is that everybody out there was telling me this was Biden's fault. So if it was Biden's fault for the prices going up, then it would be Biden's credit for the prices coming down. Like, you can't give him fault and not give him credit at the same time. That's why I never gave him any fault, because I certainly didn't want to give him credit for this today. Right? I mean, this is, am I wrong on that or what? You know, maybe I am, you know, but this is the way I see it. You know, it's just like, if you're going to blame them for the prices going up, then you have to give them credit when the prices come back down. And nobody wants to give them credit, right? And I don't either, because I don't give them credit for anything. I don't blame him and I don't give him credit because I never listen to what he says anyway. All right, guys, I got to go. All right. That was, it was a lot of fun hanging out here. You know, I thought that this was probably an interesting, you know, story to tell about as far as this apartment complex, and to see what ends up happening with this thing over the next, you know, few months to a year, to see if it ever gets completed and how much damage to the building is going to be taking place until somebody starts in on it, how much reversal on the project they have to go into. It's pretty interesting to follow. All right, guys, thank you so much. We had 261 people watching. This has been excellent. 117 likes. What? Somebody just unliked it. Oh, well. Anyway, maybe it wasn't that great. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, and thank you. What does it say? Beer is still just $2 for a tall boy. Yep, some things don't change. All right, guys. Thank you very much for being here. Uneducated Economist. Come back later for the live stream tonight, where we break down Michelle Bowman's speech on the Basel reform. All right. Talk to you guys later.